installation of the first Deputy County Commissioner Farah Hassan Mohammed, Kotulo Sub-County, was created in the month of March the year 2022 and covers an approximate area of 6,594 square kilometers. These new sub-county offices, Kindiki has noted that they will enable easy access to government services at local levels and help address security concerns as well. Ruga Ival, Lookuptv.
That story by Ruga Ival. She says her name is Ival. Never known why. I'll ask her again today when I get into that debate. Anyway, so the issues that we're looking at this morning. There are developments from the Bomas of Kenya negotiations. Kalonzo says they've agreed on the reconstitution of IEBC. But then he turns around and says, what we do not know is how to reconstitute IEBC. And for those who are counting, how many days are left? Because that particular committee was given 60 days. And by the way, from today all the way to Friday, if you had submitted your recommendations, you'll be given 20 minutes to appear in front of that committee. Even as this goes on, there are now talks that Raila Amolo Odinga, is it the 6th, is a possibility. It's a talk that is gaining momentum within the Azimio quarters, and that is probably not going to sit well with the vice chair, the co-chair, of that negotiation committee at the Bomas of Kenya, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, also Martha Karua, because Raila, who will be 82, will be essentially gunning for that particular seat come 2027. But then, today as well, it's a good thing that our panel is already coming into the studio. We're going to look at exactly where we are in terms of running this government. Are there economic policies proving to be unpopular among majority of Kenyans? And if so, is communication the problem? If indeed what we're going through as Kenyans right now in terms of the cost of living is not just a local issue. Once we come back, Fanya Mambo, Mr. Mungai and Prof. Ugola would essentially be joining us shortly so we can get to weigh in on this and much more once we come back.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata, Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
So the story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them all their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Kiage.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on the Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. In case you're just joining us, this is Lookuptv. We are online on Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. There's just a lot that we have to look at this morning, and just the way Kenyans are generally feeling about how the economy of the country is going, all the way from the economy to the political economy in the country. There's just so much that we're going to get into. Our panel would keep on walking straight into the studio as we go on with our conversations. But today, already in the studio, we do have Mr. Mungai Eric. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Happy to have you around.
Happy to have you around,
Yeah.
Simba.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to wake up in the morning with our viewers on Lookuptv. I can tell you that this is a place to look up to for the truth, for unbiased opinion, and for matters that affect the nation, matters that affect us as young people. And speaking of young people, Simba, you know, yourself and myself are very lucky. You saw what was happening at NYS recruitment, thousands of, you know, young people.
7,000, isn't it?
Yeah, looking for jobs.
350.
And it's the same thing that transpired in Murang'a County. They were asking for interns and they had thousands of applications. Same thing that happened with one of the security companies. They were looking for several interns, and we had people as, you know, aged up to 40 years with masters looking for jobs as interns. And you know, sometimes, Simba, we take a lot of things for granted, but sometimes you realize that some things need to sober us up as a country, and also realize that there is much more that we need to do apart from rhetoric and apart from just having, you know, intellectual discussions and discourse. There is room for action in terms of us absorbing a lot of our young people who are out there. They are our brothers, they are our sisters. And so you and I are lucky this morning to have this kind of a conversation. But I can tell you out there in terms of the joblessness, there is much that needs to be done.
It's just a lot. I mean, those pictures that we actually, that story we covered it on website as well, on www.lookuptv.co.ke. Just go look at it. And you know, the thing is that those who are already in the system, they were in the system, they were in the NYS system. Some of them were ongoing with that particular system. So they floated that they needed 350, over 7,000 turned up, to the point that it became a logistical nightmare. How do you deal with that number of people who've come in for an interview process, you know?
You know, one day, Simba,
yeah,
I called for, I did a Facebook post asking for sales people. And I said I needed the ages between 18 to 30 years to sell a certain product. And the pay would be based on how well you deliver. To my shock, Simba, I received a call from the OCS of that particular area asking me why I was holding a rally without informing the OCS. The number of young people that turned up became a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
They closed the whole road. It was totally unexpected.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes when we say serikali's idea, sometimes I am lost as to whether the person in charge realizes they are the ones that people are asking to help them.
Yeah.
And therefore, to me, it's a ticking time bomb. When you have a lot of those young, disillusioned people struggling to make ends meet, and they are willing to do any job, like the Standard is reporting today, desperate for a job, any job, then you know that we are sort of in a crisis. And I feel the Labour CS needs to crack something and figure out something very quickly.
Yeah.
I know government is doing the internship programs, but that's not enough. We need to think outside the box. We need to figure out as a country the number of graduates that we are producing, where do we send them? We need to have a proper strategy in place for the next 5 or 10 years on what to do with our young people.
It is.
And I think that will be very important.
Take a look at those pictures, by the way. For any other person who's wondering what we're talking about, it's on the Standard front page, and they decided just to headline it, and you can see the number of people who turned out for that particular exercise, which paints just a gory picture of the rates of unemployment in the country in as regards Kenya. Maybe a discussion for another day. All right, let's then swiftly move away from that particular story that has essentially gotten Kenyans talking this morning, and go straight ahead to an issue that is ongoing now, the Bomas of Kenya, on the bipartisan talks or negotiations. And Mr. Mugai, this is what is coming out. Kalonzo Musyoka said, or says, that we've agreed on the reconstitution of IEBC. He didn't want to delve further into the rest of the issues because we don't know, there are just a lot of issues that we're supposed to discuss within the 60 days. And he said, on the reconstitution of IEBC, we've agreed. But then turns around and says, what we've not agreed on is how to. Opens up to just an array of questions that we understand what the particular statement means, Mr. Mugai. I thought we had agreed to talk about all the issues. That was what we do know as Kenyans. So the how to is essentially not an issue because that's what you're supposed to figure out after agreeing to talk about all the issues. Well, how do we read that particular statement for Kalonzo Musyoka?
Thank you, Simba. On the issue of Kalonzo Musyoka, coming out and saying they have agreed on the reconstitution of IEBC,
yes,
but they do not agree on the how. For me, it's typical of Kalonzo. Sometimes I think we expect too much from politicians, and sometimes we forget that politicians will always be politicians. They blow hot on this side and blow cold on the other side. And I feel that, for me, I've always felt these talks are a waste of time, but they are good things, when we keep on discussing talks about talks.
Yes.
Maybe it's a way of them wanting to buy time, so that, there are also per diems involved. There are also camera ops involved. There is relevance involved. I saw the other day I think it was on the Sunday newspaper, where they put Kalonzo on the weekly review, and they said he's a man with a plan. And when I see his press briefing, it appears that he has no plan whatsoever.
Especially when it says the how to is what we've not agreed on, isn't it?
So Kalonzo is an interesting politician to watch. I would want to be his close friend to figure out how exactly he thinks. But as of now, I think we are blowing hot and cold. We expect too much from them. But in the bigger scheme of things, especially what we are having on the Standard this morning,
Yes.
I think there are more important issues that Kenyans can discuss, and that bipartisan talks can have a discussion about, rather than the reconstitution of IEBC. When we see many young Kenyans jobless and hopeless, that should be a focal point of discussion. But be it as it may, we understand that our politicians, mostly they think about themselves. I do not know what reconstitution of IEBC has anything to do with the cost of living and how I am able to provide for my family. But I think we're expecting too much from Kalonzo and the team.
Yes.
I think our expectation vis-a-vis what they'll deliver, I think it will be an underwhelming performance.
Naza, pretty much. It's a good thing that Prof is already walked into the studio this morning. Prof, how are you doing, sir? Happy to have you around. We're doing good.
Yes.
We've already started laying ground for conversation this morning. Let me just take you just a little bit on exactly what Mr. Mungai is mentioning here. We woke up to, I'll say, sad pictures that we did witness from Garrison Embakasi yesterday, when they had called for 350 applicants to join that particular service, and they got over 7,000 plus. It became a logistical nightmare. In fact, when our reporters were on the ground, even them, they said, we do not know how to get this picture. Because if we take this picture the way it is, then we're not going to essentially come and tell you the true picture of exactly what is here. Yeah. It became a logistical nightmare, exposing the level of unemployment among the youth in this country. Is it an issue that should get the government talking?
By the way, Simba, I can tell you that we are focusing on all the wrong things as a nation.
Yes.
If you look at the national priority, we have missed it totally and completely. And this is not just about what about Garissa and Bakassi. This is just throughout the country. Even if you leave that alone, the number of people who are willing to turn out for a mandamano on a working day, the statistics are glaring. The unemployment is glaring. And all governments out the world come up with very funny ways to measure unemployment to make it look low. But when you see those numbers, it tells you it's not. You do know how they measure unemployment? They say unemployed person is someone who tried to look for a job in the last 3 months. So if you didn't try to look for a job anywhere in the last 3 months, means that you cannot claim to be unemployed. But you see, this is a very Western look, because you see, if there is no employment, why do you even look? So people wait for police recruitment or GSU recruitment or military recruitment, and that's when they look for a job. So after this recruitment, where will be a place where you can go? We have no employment bureaus in Kenya. In the US, in Europe, there are employment bureaus whereby people pass there, put their name, so you can actually see who has name. And there's an employment benefit. Now I can see there's a tax to be introduced again in Parliament on something like unemployment benefit.
Tax,
I'm sure that the number of taxes we're going to have in this country, you can't even explain. So the point is that this is a crisis. This is a crisis. And what I'm sad about the Kenya Kwanza government, they have responded to the youth unemployment in a very difficult way. What have they done? Have you seen the number of statistics of the police station that need to be constructed? A government planning to construct prisons and police stations, what are they trying to say? They can see this problem and they want to imprison these people because they promise them so much and they can't deliver. You know, the way you define a problem defines how you approach the solution. So some people do not see the youth as an opportunity. They are seeing the youth as a problem. When I was a professor in Strathmore, I saw a book written, Youth Unemployment, a Sitting Time Bomb. You know, when you see them as a time bomb, when you see a youth as a time bomb, you're not a government. You're not even having legitimacy to rule these people. Because see now, what do? You prepare to find how you can suppress them, because they even say in politics, if you can't convince them, you confuse them. And they've been confused enough. They have not been convinced at all, because they should be convinced on how many jobs were supposed to be created by Kenya Kwanza government. But even look at the azimio. How many jobs did they promise people? What was it based on? Was it based on real unemployment numbers? If we know, like you see, for example, I can give you how some of these things are done. I looked at when Xi Jinping was elected just after we did our election. After his election, he said, I'm going to grow the economy by 5%. You know, that is a $20 trillion economy. To grow it by 5% is significant. He said, how exactly are you going to do it? He said, I'm going to subsidize the issue of child rearing, childbirth, child education. He was lowering the cost of all those things. Then he's going to create 20 million urban jobs. Urban jobs. Urban jobs means what? When you create 20 million urban jobs in Nairobi, you know what that means? If you can make 20 million people come to work in Nairobi, and the urban jobs in China is somebody who earns around 15,000 USD.
Yes.
So can you imagine if you can create people can earn that money here? How many people can buy cars, isn't it? How many people can eat in restaurants? How many people can be able to take a road trip? How many people can afford to buy clothes, shoes? Do you know if you create 20 million jobs, there will be 20 million people putting on a suit to go into work, is it not? Who is going to buy that? The mama mbogas, the one who sell clothes, isn't it? The people who sell food by the roadside, they're going to get people who are purchasing from them. You're going to create a vibrant transport industry. You're going to transport 20 million people. This government is completely clueless. I'm telling you the truth, because economics paradigms are very clear. If you are creating a certain number of jobs, how many people need housing for rent? Instead of wasting money that you want to go and build for people houses, have you created people who rent those houses in terms of jobs? I can tell you, Simba, if I was president, I can turn this country on the head with one few executive decisions, because it's very clear. Instead of putting money on the wrong things, now look here, the president in the US with 300 entourage. That money is being eaten by who? By Americans. Now, since the president came to office, how many entourages has he had? That money is being entered in Tanzania, in Zimbabwe. The vice deputy president was the other day in which country? Colombia. Entourage which was there. Our money is being eaten by foreigners. Go and look even now, even not blaming President Ruto's government only, but even President Uhuru's government. The Chinese that took the contract to do the expressway, yes, they were given a chance to give contractors, no contractors. Chinese were the contractors to transport ballast and sand. Let me ask you, Simba, there is no Kenyan who can set up trucks to transport, and you know what's happening? The Chinese, after being given the contract to transport ballast and cement, they subcontracted Kenyans to do the job. They didn't have the trucks. Meaning that the margins of the money they were making, they're taking the money to China. The people running our economy are clueless. That's why I'm trying to tell people, in 2027, mark my words, if Kenyans are wise, elect someone who understands how the economy works. Why am I trying to say? We have a case in point. We elected a president in 2002, who understood how economy works. You can be advised, Simba, but if you can't get that advice, there's no point of being advised. We write articles. Me, myself, every week, you see me writing articles on what to do about everything. The president either not reading, or he reads and ignores. And either way is bad. We go on Twitter, we tell them, the president, this is the solution to this and that. He doesn't listen. Like this week, I said that taxation, the way we are doing it, in fact, it affects the employment. If you do tax and you don't see two things, production and consumption, your tax policy is wrong. If there's no increased production and there's no increased consumption is wrong, because people, you make money either when people are producing,
yes,
because people are producing goods and services, or people are consuming those goods and services. Because excess duty is production, isn't it? The among the taxes you earn when people produce. And also the VAT, among other taxes, income tax, is when people consume. So if your tax policy is reducing consumption and production, you are taxing yourself, because no one is going to pay taxes. Now, if you look at how the taxes are going up every day, the consumption are going down because people's disposable income has reduced. Some people are being pushed below the budget line. Like now, if you used to drink to two Tusker bottles every week, isn't it? And then the taxes go up, you begin drinking Changa. Who taxes Changa? I don't know. Tell me who taxes Changa. We should arrest them, because then they are legalizing Changa, because Changa is illegal. So what I'm trying to say here clearly is that this government is clueless, rudderless. They have a plan.
Yes.
They have no execution. And they say, sikio la kufa. Halisiki dawa. A lot has been said.
Yes.
And the problem we have world over is that when you do not know that you don't know, there's no solution. Because even if you will know, look at what Moses Korea is saying, look at all the CS that is in the government, or RUTO is saying,
yes,
look at RUTO himself, his statements are ridiculous. Move after move. I told you, Simba, the first week after this guy was elected, that they got it wrong. You had fuel prices go down when they go government to government deals, isn't it? Has it solved the problem? I told that's a wrong move. It can't happen. Telling us you can buy fuel with Kenya shillings. How does Saudi Arabia want Kenya shillings to do what with Kenya shillings? You go there, even there's no forex where you can get Kenya shillings. Even if you carry Kenya shillings in Saudi Arabia, no one can accept you to give them Kenya shillings and give you $1. You have to change dollar. Even if you go to UAE, here in Dubai, it's impossible. Those people are completely clueless. One move after one move is a wrong move. According to me, the solution which I think should be put in place, the president needs to come back and honestly tell us, Kenyans, we made a mistake. Or at least the propaganda we used to win the election will not make us run a government. You know, they are running this government on the propaganda they had during the campaign, bottom up. It has never worked anywhere. It cannot work anywhere. It is not working 1 year down the line.
Yes.
You cannot be taking a Panadol for 1 year and you are still having pain,
yes,
and you are still hoping to cure the issue. It cannot work. So they come back and tell the Kenyans, we have won the election. Now let's do this. What's the issue? Go back to the drawing board, to the table, and come with a solution. All the appointments William Ruto made in his government are nearly all of them wrong. Nearly all of them are wrong. Look at, when you hear Moses Korea speaking, you wonder, well, this is a state official? How did Parliament vet such a person? You know, for me, I was wondering when we went for vetting, when Parliament were engaging him, did they engage to know that he can be able to deliver to the people? Name them. From left and right, I saw the PS for, I saw the PS for, the PS for housing the other day, talking about the issue that now you see the American fuel is this, Kenyan fuel is this. The capacity income of the Americans is $68,800 per capita, isn't it?
Yes.
Ours, it is 4,800. With that difference, can you even compare that Americans are buying this? Let me tell you what, Coke, this Coke you drink, in the US, it's around $2, isn't it? $2 is how much? It's around 250 shillings, right? Coke here is 25 shillings, if not 50. So do you want to tell us that now we should tax Coke until it is 250 because it is 250 in the US? It's not making sense. So I'm talking about simple things. A cup of coffee in Geneva is $8, isn't it? 8 euros. 8 euros is around 1,000 shillings. This is a cup of coffee, and it is a small cup that even holding is hard. Here, how many kettles tea can you drink using 1,000 shillings? What I'm trying to say in short is that we are having people who are giving us, either they are clueless, or they are just blatant liars who know the truth, and they are misleading us.
Pretty much. Mr. Mungai, just let's pick up that conversation on exactly where Prof has just left it, because he's just spoken about so many areas that I want to give a chance to essentially look at them. And one, the communication that is coming from the economic advising team for the president, specifically David Ndii, is a man who's telling Kenyans it might work, it might not work. We're just trying. So be ready, it might get worse. When you have that communication from an economic advisor, the people who are supposed to sit down and put down policies and project the direction that the economy is supposed to grow toward, and then you see that kind of communication from them, Mr. Mangai, at one point, we gotta ask the question, if you're saying that you don't know it's gonna work, just get out and give it to people who are gonna tell us that whatever we're putting in place is going to work and succeed.
You know, Simba,
Yeah.
on the issue of, actually there are two comments that,
Yes.
unfortunate comments that were made, one by the CS, CS of MITI. And the other one was the economic advisor
Yes.
to the president, David Ndii.
Yes.
One is to say that even though you speak the truth, there is a way within which you communicate the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one is gagging you
Yes, sir.
from speaking things as they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Simba, if I lose my parent today, I expect that if a priest is going to come to my home, I expect them to offer words of comfort and words that will bring me, you know, to boost my morale and
Yes.
to have some level of good spirits in me. But if the priest comes and says, you know, it is a good thing your parents have died, they will never come back to life, even you, including yourself, one day you will die. So I don't want this business of seeing you crying and seeing you mourning. You must wake up and go to work.
Mourning can't help you.
And mourning will not help you, you know. In fact, if you use that analogy, they can even tell you, you know, go and dig more graves if you think, you know, in essence, what the person has said.
Prof, you know where the analogy for go dig more graves comes from.
I'm happy for the first time Mungai.
Mungai's allowed time.
Yeah.
No, you see, what they will have, what the priest will have done, they will in essence have told me the truth.
That's
okay?
it.
There
Yeah.
is no lie in whatever they have said.
Yes.
But the lack of empathy, the lack of understanding that I'm going through a struggle,
Yes.
and most importantly, I am relying on you to show me guidance and direction, is what is appalling to me, even as a life member of the ruling party.
Yes.
And I feel that we are not asking David Ndii and Moses Kuria to refrain from telling Kenyans the truth. What we are telling them is to be empathetic to the situation that we find ourselves in. Now, there's something that Moses Kuria is doing, and you know, there have been rumors out there that there will be a reshuffle very soon. And there are rumors that some of the CSAs might be axed and some might be put. I saw the Nation newspaper, I think that was on Sunday, either on Sunday or yesterday, and they were saying that when the president was in the US, they introduced Adan Mohammed as a CS. And there have been rumors that Adan Mohammed will come in to replace the CS, Honorable Moses Kuria.
Mm-hmm.
And that concerns me a lot. And it worries me a lot because Moses Kuria has started an initiative that I think is a game changer, but that unfortunately, because of his utterances, might cost him his job. And I am afraid that if we get a new CS in that docket, the new CS might start focusing on going out there to get us investors. You know, as African countries, we have this notion that we must go out there and get a big company and bring it here. You know, it's trickle-down economy. economics. Prof might know this much better than myself. And I don't support trickle-down economics because, in essence, what you're saying, you bring a big company from out there, you hope they will create thousands of jobs here. But they come here because, say, there is cheap labor, and then, just like the Chinese did, they repatriate most of their profits to their destinations of origin. But there is a program on the county aggregated industrial parks that is ongoing, which I think will be a game changer in terms of creation for this country. And I am afraid that if we change Moses Kuria from that docket, we might lose that, just like when Mishuki came into when he was the interior minister, he streamlined the matatu sector. When we got CS Masharia, CS became the CS for airports and the big roads. He forgot completely about Kenyans, and he had nothing to do with Kenyans. And we had a lot of road carnages while he was CS, because really he did not care about the common man. He concentrated on airport terminals. Just like I'm telling you, the trickle-down economics, you focus on the big things and aesthetics. But I tell you, Simba, I am looking forward to a situation in this country when the county government of Kiambu will set aside a piece of land, and in that, because we have just discussed the issue of unemployment in the standard. And I look forward to a time when the county of Kiambu, for example, will set up an industrial park that is not relying on a Muzungu from US or from Europe to come and invest there. I am looking forward to a time when, with my 2 million Kenya shillings, Simba, I can go to Kirdi, which is a government institution, and they can fabricate a manufacturing machine for me of toothpicks, because they do a lot of fabrication. And this is the most unfortunate thing about this country, is that a majority of our population do not know where they can get help. I can take my 1 million shillings and go to Kirdi, and they can fabricate a machine for me. I can go to a county aggregated park and set up my machine. Because the challenge with Kenya is that when I get 1 million, I want to buy either a matatu or open an M-Pesa shop. We know, doing the same things over and over again. And with my small machine in Kiambu County, I can get transport. I can get a legal office that is situated in the county aggregation park. I can get cabs. They are situated there, so I don't have to go anywhere to get a certification. I can get NCA or whichever government agencies that are responsible in one place, okay? Now, so what happens when I manufacture my toothpicks, for example, I have transport available. If I need county licenses, I have county offices there. Now, with my small machine, I can employ like 10 people. Now, another person in the same aggregated industrial park has a small machine for manufacturing paints. And then we stop this nonsense that when I move my goods from Kiambu County to Murang'a County, I am taxed 2 times. One for advertisement. If my van is branded in Kiambu County and I go to Murang'a County, they want to tax me. We must stop that kind of nonsense, so that we have many aggregated industrial parks, and we can start creating our own standards, and we can start exporting now our goods so that we can get foreign exchange. But this model of us expecting a Muzungu, and I don't know where we've gotten that from, like Konza City. For how long since Kibaki's time we've had Konza City? What do? Every 3 years, the president goes there to launch something, a ghost project there. For the longest time, Konza does not work. Why? Because in our heart of hearts, we are relying on a Muzungu to come from Dubai, from the US, from China, from wherever, to come and set up shop here. And that model, if you ask me, I disagree with economists about the trickle-down economics. From what I believe, let us start with bottom up. And let us start with bottom up. Let us not just discuss about manufacturing in terms of, you know, we We love discussing manufacturing in good conferences.
Prof is shaking his head.
No, it's okay. We love discussing good manufacturing policies in workshops,
Yes.
where we take good photos after the workshop and we have 10 o'clock tea. We need to cascade that discussion all the way to mashinani, so that if a county is good in agriculture, let us focus on processing agricultural products. If a company is good in mining, let us focus on that particular aspect. Like you saw the other day while you were constructing a road, was it in Migori?
Does it?
And there was a lot of gold.
Does it?
And within a short time, the Kamaus who had gone to set up shop there were sent away. And the Ministry of Mines closed the whole thing. But it tells you our country has a lot of potential that we are yet to harness.
Yes.
Now, if we continue the same trajectory that we are continuing with the likes of David D dressing us down as Kenyans, and I want to tell you, I am one person who does not support David D.
Yes.
And for the reason that whenever I see him, I see IMF.
Yes.
I see him as a person IMF has supplanted there, because even when we discuss the issues of fuel,
yes,
you can see IMF written all over it. And I don't want to believe as a Kenyan what D is selling to us as fear, that we are in a situation where we are doing trial and error. If D is not sure what is supposed to be done, if he is not sure that him and his economic advisory team can get us out of this hole we are in,
yes,
he has no business lecturing us as Kenyans. Yeah. And I want to be very clear as a UDA member, and you know it's rare that I get angry on this set. If he is sure he's gambling, he's playing lotto, he's playing those gambling games, what do we call this one?
This one is lotto.
If he's playing those games with the Kenyan economy, it is time for him to pack and go. Let us get someone who can advise us properly. I don't want to say prof. Let us get someone who can advise us properly.
Yes.
And someone who is sure of what they are doing. But this pata potea business that Ndi is telling us, it might work, it might not work. We cannot take that.
That's it. Pretty much. Just before, I'm going to come to you, because it's just a lot that you have to essentially go back and talk about this. Let me introduce Fanya Mambo to the conversation. Fanya Mambo, how are you doing, sir?
Very good morning.
Let me catch you up to the conversation on exactly where we are. Gory images that appeared at Garrison Embakasi when there were 350 positions that were advertised, and over 7,000 Kenyans went to look for those 350 positions. It became a logistical nightmare for the guys who had called for those interviews, to the point that the criteria now to cover these 7,000 people that are in your premise, they were taken to the field. That was the only way that you could actually then do these interviews, because the 7,000, to accommodate them in your premise, even your force is not 7,000 in that particular premise. And if you look at where they were in the sun, they were seated out in not very good conditions, and we have no idea whether indeed the guys at Garrison and Embakasi were able to complete those interviews, or the criteria then that they started using just to disqualify some of them who'd gone for those interviews. Essentially, painting a picture of where the economy is, an employment crisis in this country in terms of the youth population. But then number two, we're also talking about what is working and not working in this government when it comes to the economy. Majority of Kenyans are crying on the cost of living, but seemingly there are gentlemen within this government who are adamant at telling Kenyans, no, it's going to get worse. We're just starting. The talk about how the cost of living is going to come down is already forgotten. The talk about how we're going to work fast and steady to make sure that your problems are alleviated is already forgotten. Now what we're getting majorly from this government is things are going to get worse, and we're going to come again to you, so we tax you more, so we can fix this country. Fanya Mambo.
A very good morning. Thanks. Sorry, I apologize. I came in late because I moved to Roiro.
Yes.
Things are cheaper in Roiro.
Yep.
So I am living on that side now.
I don't know.
And this place is really far from Roiro.
Prof,
Let's go back to Ruto.
I must say, it's good to come from Ruto because there is cooking gas for 300 shillings, which I used to make breakfast this morning. Last night I had taken unga for 159 shillings.
Does it?
And so Ruto has become this fantastic place. The electric bike I took this morning delayed because there was no charging port, and you know steamer has become very expensive, so they were busy looking for a place they could plug in and charge the electric bike. You know, all the people in Ruto have thrown away the petrol piki-pikis, and now they are all using the electronic piki-pikis, which we all have, by the way. We were promised 1st of September. The gas would be cheaper. We have it in Ruto. It's 300 shillings. We were promised electric bikes will come. We have them in Ruto. This is the steamer hakuna. This is the petrol hakuna Ruto. All of us are using the electric bikes. We've gotten here, and then their hustler fund is more. You don't get this meager 500. If you're in Ruto, the hustler fund, you can get up to 60,000 on your phone. Really, that's the fantastic place to be. And so I am late because I have come from a small haven where you even sleep for more hours than the others, because this other side you don't sleep a lot. Now, having said that, I was looking at Embakasi and I saw the 7,000 young people. I don't blame them. These young people are used to being on the receiving end. Whenever there was maandamano and there was sufuria on the head, they were on the receiving end. And you know, they were sent to a fight where they had nothing other than a vest and a t-shirt and some water to wash off the tear gas. Now they are being put on the other side where they can still participate in maandamano, but now they are armed, they are protected, they have headgear, they are being carried by a vehicle there, they are being paid to beat other people, and they have the opportunity to look more Kenyan than others. So being on the other side now will also be a very different thing for them. You know, they have always admired that red beret. They have always admired the fact that you can go to maandamano but now carrying a rungu, not carrying a stone. You can go to maandamano and you're the one throwing the tear gas, and then we have returning officers on the other end. It's a beautiful and different place to be. I think it is sad that 60 years after independence, a country would get to a place where becoming a police officer is one job that 7,000 people would really run for. And I can assure you the bulk of those people are educated. They are not fools. They've been to school. Some of them are, they were saying they are degree holders. Some of them have a diploma. Some of them, these are not, you would not say they are people who have nothing to their head. They are people who really went out there, did everything they were told, soma kwa bidii, soma kwa nguvu. They did everything they were told to do. But unfortunately, there's nothing that is working for them. And so this is an act of desperation. This is a ticking time bomb. It's a country where if you see 7,000 people, and I'm sure it was a very short notice, running there looking for those job opportunities is a problem. But again, on the utterances of Moses Kuria and David Ndii, why are you surprised? What did you expect from him? Has he ever said any better things before he became cabinet secretary? Now that you're expecting he becomes a cabinet secretary, he's going to start saying different things. I've always told these people, the person who was campaigning in 2022 is the same person you've come and made minister. These people have been promising us funny things like going to urinate at people's houses and compounds and so on and so forth. And then you give them a big docket like trade. I'm even surprised he didn't promise people he's going to urinate in a public place and so on and so forth. I am not surprised. I'm surprised at the utterances of Moses Kuria. David Ndii, economic advisor on what? What economic strategy paper has he ever come up with that has helped anyone anywhere? How does he even run the economy of his own house? Why are we listening to him? Why do we even give him that airtime? If I was the owner of Twitter, now called X, I think I would disband his account, because it is a very acerbic account that is causing a lot of national division for nothing. I saw the deputy president trying to call them to order as who? As the person who told her that this country is a company that has got owners, and the owners are him and the president, and then the others are shareholders, and that you're going to be given things in terms of national development depending on how many shareholders, how many shares you have.
Shareholders are misbehaving now, So you got to put them in order.
Shareholders are not misbehaving. They're just trying to take his trophy. He was supposed to be the leader of all Asabic talk in this nation. He was supposed to be the most divisive leader in this nation. And there are people who are competing him and trying to beat him to the game.
Yes.
So he has to stop them from becoming the most divisive people.
Yes.
That's all he's doing.
Mr. Mungai is a bit angry this morning, saying, why are we allowing them to speak like that? That somebody has to shut them up. Same thing that Boni Kalwale is saying, well, you can't allow them to speak like that. That they are leaders that have been appointed by the people of Kenya and trusted that opportunity.
Mr. Mungai represents the hustler nation that today regrets their decision.
No, I
so badly. And I can tell you,
yes.
Everywhere I go today,
yes.
I find people who tell me now all of a sudden that they did not vote. And they did not vote for this government, and they do not, and they are not associated with this government.
Yes.
I mean, I would rather be in a situation whereby a government I did not vote for is taking me to pain, rather than be in a situation where I campaigned for a government, I sold propaganda about it, I moved around this country, I told people how this government is going to be good, and I'm here now regretting and saying I wish I knew, because those words are on the lips of every other hustler in this nation. Some of them do not want to admit, and for those who are gotten to the point, now they have a new phrase they are using. They were saying that there was no better alternative. That's now the only excuse they have. They've gotten to a point they've accepted things are bad, and now they're trying to say that Raila Amolo Odinga was not an alternative. So I think the hustler nation needs to wake up. They need to realize that they were lied to.
Yes.
There was a lot of deception on their part. They took it and they accepted the lie, and now it's time to move on. And I'm telling you, for the first time in 2027, I want to feel like how it feels like to vote wrong. So I'm going to vote back for this government so that I vote wrong, and for the first time I feel how it feels like to make a wrong decision in terms of being at the ballot and voting for the wrong person.
Yes.
Because I have never experienced that feeling of voting for the wrong government. I think this should be my first experience of going to the ballot and voting for the wrong government and feel how it feels like to be part of a team that voted for the wrong government.
Pretty much. Prof, we have 10 minutes, and I wanna split those 10 minutes between the two of you. That is Mr. Mungai and you. So take 3 minutes. There's this sentiment that has come out of conversations around the economic policies that this government is taking. And somebody said this, look here, President Dr. William RUTO is assured of a second term. So he better does it right now. He knows that no matter what he does, all those polarizing economic policies, he knows very well that come 2027, I'm in again. So if I'm going to make any decision, I'm going to make it now. So that if they do not want in the next 5 years, I know what to do in the last 5 years. Probably. Do you agree that this economic policy that we're seeing, that now, when Kenyans are complaining about the cost of living, by the way, and we're not even seeing the effect of it, the effect of this petrol prices increase is going to come very soon, because majority of the stocks now that Kenyans are getting were on the 194, 180 something fuel prices. It says that, well, there's another 2% again, VAT, that has been proposed. So it's going to go further, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
That it acts like a man who's assured of a second political term in government, so he can do whatever he likes. And you guys can talk. It's now for him to do the trial and error, just like Devin D is saying that you gotta try in one way or another. If it backfires, fine. You have another 5 years to fix it if it doesn't work.
First of all, it is very unfortunate as a Christian when I hear someone says they are assured of a 2027 presidency and they're telling themselves they're giving themselves 10-10. It's unchristian. If you read the letters of St. James, says that if you say now, tomorrow I'll be in Mombasa, then next I'll be in Kisumu,
yes,
then I'll be Eldoret, you're committing a sin. If God wishes. Do these people recognize God? There's a God factor there.
He's in church every Sunday.
Simba,
yes,
whenever you tell me to come to the station, I usually say, actually through your producer, I usually tell her, if God wishes, then just, you mean you're not coming? I said, I mean, if God wishes, because you may not wake up. Let us agree with that factor. It does not matter your age. Everybody is not assured of seeing 2027. If you are sure, bring me the certificate that God has given you that you'll be there in 2027. Me, I don't know. I only thank God that we are here this morning, and that's it. Now, that does not mean you don't plan. The president should act in a way that if he would die today, what legacy would he leave? Can you just mess up people because you know that you can get it right later on? As I left house now, I left my son going to school. As you late me, I was dropping my wife to where she was going to work.
Yes.
That's why I came 2 minutes late.
Yeah.
But for me, I meant that if I left my wife and children mess up because I'm into a show, what if I come home, I don't come home, they say, look at that man, how he left his family, isn't it? Sure, he never came back. Let us agree that if Steve Jobs said, live life as if this is your last job you have, because one day you'll be right. So, this is being arrogant.
Can beat him in 2027.
So let me tell you what, maybe I can beat him. This is very, by the way. I'm telling you, Kenyans don't elect William Ruto. This one can take to the some guy. Kenyans are electing Ruto in 2027. If he's the election, let me tell you, Simba, let's just go to number one economist to the core. What percent did William Ruto win the election with? He just did not, if Raila would have just gotten 200,000 votes from somewhere, he could have not been president, isn't it? And I told you, presidency is like a car. It's not an asset. Presidency is a liability. It depreciates. I saw with the car, Simba, I don't want to mention the one, but let me just say it's a German machine, isn't it? That German machine, the day you left the showroom with it, it is now nearly 40% in the value, below the value you bought it, isn't it? The president is like that. Because look, when William Ruto had time to blame Uhuru, people loved him for it, isn't it? He had time to blame Raila, the handshake, this, the handshake, that. He's 1 year in the office. He's still blaming those. So do you think Kenyans are listening to him? I'm telling you, those hustlers that he said have left him. I saw a border. Yesterday, I was in another studio. We took voice box from Washingishu. And the guys were telling, if this is what William Ruto is, we didn't know. This is his home area. Let me tell you what. It is very hard for people in Kisumu to talk against Raila Odinga. I've never heard in my life. If you've heard, tell me which one did you hear. For the first time, people in Rift Valley are disappointed with him. Yes. They are trying to say, we thought this was our guy, but he has come to eat us.
Even Keter.
Do you know it's a rule of the thumb? You know these things called weaver birds? If the weaver birds are staying in a tree next to your garden where you have your, let's say, maize, they never eat those maize. They go away because they know they'll be chased from home. Ruto is that weaver bird who is eating the very plantation in his own area. You don't eat your people. In fact, those are rules of the time, even 48 laws of power. Never eat the people who have brought you there. It is against the law. Yes. So he's broken all the worst thing. Let me just try to explain to my brother. I said before that David Lee is not a hard-nosed economist. David Lee has never helped any government in power with any single economic policy, because when he came from Oxford, he came in to support Raila Odinga, to help Raila Odinga, to help Jaramogi against Moi and against Kibaki. Then he started to help Ruto against Uhuru. Then he's in government. He only knows what's called economic activism. Hard-nosed economists like us, we went to Greece, went to Portugal, turned around the economy with the policies. He doesn't know any that will work. So waiting for David D to turn around the economy is just a waste of time, because simple things to be said. An economy cannot be run on wait and see. The Kenya Kwanza government runs on wait and see. Because since they took office, they say, now wait, next month we shall add fuel. So how can you imagine? I saw a border person. I really respect that. That border person should be given a PhD in economics. Yeah. He told Ruto, you want to add fuel up to 500, just add now to 500, then stop. That was a very Solomonic economic model. What did he say? We want stability. Tell us that it is 500 so that we don't have to wait and see. Can you imagine you want to do business and you start doing business, you wait before April speaks. Every month, it is not sustainable. We want to have a clear economic policy. No, fuel will be this will be that will be this. Even they are comparing in the US, you cannot wake up in the US and add fuel. You cannot wake up and add taxes. There's unstable tax policy. There's unstable economic policy. There's unstable taxing in the country. You look at front page, there's just something new coming. Every day, something new that you don't know how much profit you'll make. Ask Safaricom. Ask any big company. Ask Mama Mboga. Ask the ones who roast maize. Ask them whether they can predict their profit at the end of the month. They cannot. I go to Kenyatta Market, ask another woman, Mama, unauza hii mboga. Can you project to me your profit at the end of the week? He tells me, son, sijui, kesho watamuka tu, waseme sijui tomato imeongezeka, sijui mafuta imepanda, sijui nini hiyo chumvi imepanda. Sasa, sijui, kila mtu is running on faith.
Yes.
So you can't run economy on faith. Yes. Economy must be predictable. There is no predictability. Even you, Simba, do you know how much your savings will be at the end of the month? Even if you say, now I want to save money, you don't know what will be your disposable income. How can you predict how much you'll save?
Yes.
How much will you know will put in education? You can't know how much you'll put on school fees. How much you'll be able to put in your healthcare. How much you'll put on food. You can't predict. In fact, it is good you move to Ruiru because you have to go to the lowest housing. Even me, I think Lavington has become difficult.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to talk to my brother here to be his name and will because, but you know, for me, I can do better in Kibera because my father lived there when I was a young boy. I'm telling you, it has become so unpredictable. Last but not least, Simba,
yes, in 45 seconds, we're going to break.
Let me give this guy an advice.
Yes.
One thing is clear, that we should not bash the government. There are a few things the government needs to do. We need to have faith in the economy. You know, when there's faith in the economy, people want to put money on it.
Yes.
So the statements they are talking about, those statements, they are not only making us feel annoyed, but also they are bringing lack of faith in the economy. And those statements is talking about telling me that they're saying the truth. There's no truth about this one. Because when someone tells you, chimba kisima chako cha mafuta, it is even illegal. How many Kenyans are allowed to go and drill in Talo? No, you know, even a cabinet secretary is saying that you should drill your own oil well. It's even illegal. And oil belongs to the state. These people are simply clueless. I don't want to say they're arrogant.
Yes.
Because if you are arrogant, we can see arrogance if you are intelligent. But there's no intelligible statement coming from these people. They're just completely arrogant. Let's not assume they're arrogant. William Ruto, if he wants to win the second term,
yes,
he should reshuffle this cabinet and bring it to a competent one. And I quote the words of John Mbadi in Parliament. He said, you brought your skunk, to your skunk we give you back. John Mbadi said this when they are being sworn in, when they are being vetted. And they are a skunk cabinet. They should go home.
Once we come back, Fanya Mambo and Mr. Mungai then weigh in on that particular issue because there have been calls again now to reshuffle the cabinet of one president, Dr. William Ruto's government. Is that a necessity now? And what is essentially saying that he should reshuffle that particular cabinet? By the way, once we come back, we're going to look at exactly the ratings that InfoTrack gave this particular government after 1 year. Maybe that would be a proper reason for them to reshuffle. But once we come back, Fanya Mambo, Mr. Mungai, is Ruto behaving like a man who knows, regardless, 2027 up to 2032, the still government? Once we come back.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
You're watching The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. This is Lookuptv. The hashtag that we're running with this morning is the hashtag The Morning Drift. All right, just before we went on break, the question was, is RUTO then behaving like a man who is assured of his political health in a 2027? Mr. Mangai.
Thank you, Simba. First, I want to disabuse the notion that some of us and a majority of us who voted for the Kenya Kwanza government are regretting. And secondly, that we are hiding under the table. When we ask where we voted, we do not declare. I want to state categorically that a majority of us who voted for this government still have faith in this government.
Yes.
That the government will deliver what it promised Kenyans it will deliver. Now, secondly, is to say that I have looked at today's Standard newspaper, and part of what they are saying is that 84% of what we generated is going towards payment of debts, and these are debts that have accrued over the years. And what I want to tell, especially the Kenyans that are viewing us this morning, is that it is true when the government came into power, we promised, and I say we because I was and still am a strong supporter of this government.
Yes.
We promised that we would deliver a bouncing baby boy. But what is happening is that the conception happened, the pregnancy is there, but there are few complications with the pregnancy. And the fact that there are few complications does not mean that the baby will not be delivered. It means that the right hands are on deck to make sure that this government delivers what it promised Kenyans that it would deliver. As to your question on whether the president behaves as if he will be re-elected, the answer is no. In fact, if there is a person who does not sleep, hoping and making sure that he delivers the promises with which he promised Kenyans,
yes,
is actually the current president.
Then why would he allow Moses Kuria and David Ndii to speak like that?
He didn't allow them to speak like that.
It's not the very first time they're speaking like that, Mr. Ndii.
No. You know,
yes,
there is a personal, what do I say? You know, when you're quoting someone, sometimes you quote someone with the desire that they will change. But the reality of life is that when you get into the marriage, there are characteristics that will still be salient in the partner that you chose. And we brought Moses Kuria into government knowing that he has an acerbic tongue, knowing that he is likely to say sometimes things that might make us uncomfortable. But nevertheless, if you ask a majority of the people, they will tell you that the CS is a very brilliant man. In fact, my only concern is with the way David Ndii is behaving. In fact, it's not even Moses Kuria, because he has a track record of doing things the way he does things.
Yes.
But I am concerned with the way David Ndii is behaving, because personally when I see him, I see IMF, I see a stooge. You know, like when you go to Moya fields, you can see scarecrows that are actually supposed to represent people and to chase away birds. Now, that's what I see in David D myself. I see him as a scarecrow who sits there on behalf of IMF. And if you read a book called, it's called Hard Something, it's written about Uhuru Kenyatta. Hard Tackle. Yes, it's written about Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
When Mwai Kibaki entered into government, he found that IMF used to be housed within treasury buildings. And he found that before you passed anything, you know the way government paperwork goes up the ladder.
Yes.
You know, you're going from junior officers maybe to the PS, then the PS will scribble a note, it goes to the CS. Part of that hierarchy was IMF. You had to pass documents to IMF office, and they would write comments and notes, and then it would ascend to the highest office. To the extent that they shared an office with the CS. That is how powerful the IMF was then. And of course, Kibaki made certain decisions, and one of them was to tell IMF, look guys, you people, you can have your own budget, you have your own budget, get an office somewhere else.
Yes.
But it appears to me with this economics of David D that we are returning to those times when IMF has a firm control of our economy. And this did not start with David D. Remember, this started with the 16% VAT on fuel during Uhuru's tenure, and then because of political reasons, Uhuru adjusted it to 8%, and then this government took over the extra 8% to make it 16%. I can tell you, in my opinion and from what I foresee, if we continue as a government listening to David D, and I am sure that is why he keeps on saying statements like he's not sure, that we are headed to what we used to call SAPs. And SAPs have never grown any economy. Those structural adjustment programs have never grown any economy. I want to believe, and I sincerely want to believe, this one now I join other Kenyans in sincerely hoping and believing that this government is not relying solely on the advice of David D on matters economics. I want to believe that we have better brains and we have good brains and we have good brains, because it would concern me.
Prof, yes, yes, because I want to cross over to Fanya Mambo. Yes.
Saying
yes
that you hope and you believe, those are not very good things to say now. And then you said before that if David D is not sure, we are all aware that he's wrong. Why are you even waiting whether he's sure or not? He has no solution. Thank you.
Mr. Mulai, could you clear so that I can pass over to Fanya Mambo?
No, you see, I don't worry, Fanya Mambo, I'll give it to him.
Yes.
You know, he still needs fruit. You know, Fanya Mambo needs to catch a breath because he's come all the way from Ruiru. It's a bit far. But what I want to say is, I might disagree with a lot of things that Prof and Fanya Mambo have to say.
Yes.
But I will agree with them on the issue of the economist called David D. And on this one, I am really praying, because I am not in the inner economic advisory team. I don't know.
Yes.
But my desire and the desire of every Kenyan out there is that we are not relying on David D for us to get our economy to where it should be.
Doesn't it look like we're relying on David D, Fanya Mambo? And just before that, the first question that I want you to attack is that, I mean, at this time, when you would expect that someone who's thinking about their political chances in 2027 would say, there's how you communicate to the Kenyans right now about the economic policies that we're putting in place. Because politics is not the politics of bravado. Politics, you have to coerce people. There's how you communicate what we're trying to achieve. And by the way, the president has been on point saying that I need people can tell Kenyans what it is that we're trying to achieve. And do it now, because majority of you are not doing it. But see what David Ndei is speaking about. See what Moses Kure is talking about. Does it look like RUTO now knows very well, despite what happens right now? 2027, I'm still there.
No, he's not guaranteed about 2027. That's why he's already started his campaign. It's very clear he's campaigning. He spends half of his time on top of vehicles Government today is run on top of Land Cruisers with speakers. Most of the time they're in campaign trails. Yes. You've seen what they've been doing in Western. A government that was assured of re-election in 2027 would not be campaigning as hard as these ones are campaigning. Look at what they are doing in Mount Kenya. Every other Sunday there's an interdenominational prayer weekend to just go and pray and thank God and make a lot of comments and remind the people of Mount Kenya that their biggest problem is Raila Amolo Odinga. It's not bursary, it's not nini, it's just go and give those people rice and meat, and to remind them that bursary is not important, climate change is not important. Nothing is important to the people of Mount Kenya other than interdenominational prayers on Sunday and rice and meat. So basically it's a government that knows that it will be very hard for them to be elected in 2027, and that's why they are campaigning. We allowed Mr. Mongai to go on a very long spree, lying to us that what Moses Kuria is doing is trying to revive the economy. I can tell you for free. Let me tell you. What Moses Kuria is doing are called, those are infrastructure projects. Infrastructure projects is one of the easiest way to make money and put money in your pocket and the pocket of contractors. If this nation was about developing industry and industrial parks, do you know you don't need an industrial park to set up a toothpick making machine or to start manufacturing handkerchiefs or doing that kind of thing? What kind of industrial park do you need to make a mwiko, which we are importing from China? I mean, all we needed to do is to start asking, why is the Chinese mwiko better than our mwiko? Is it a sandpaper that they have better than ours? Or what is it that they have better than ours? And start giving young people those tools, because from the comfort of their home, you can have a mwiko making industry. Yes. You can have a toothpicking making industry. Some of these things that we import from China, for even toys for our children, are things that we used to make ourselves. We used to make toy cars with wires and so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is they should stop that nonsense of making those things they are calling industrial parks. Those are infrastructure projects meant to enrich some contractors. There is nothing there about making Kenya an industrialized nation. If you see some of the factories we have in India, they are what are called cottage industries. If you see like now the Moya rice scheme, is somebody, before you get those big machines, is somebody who is able to come. Look at our beans, for example. Somebody just needed to put them in a gunia and beat them up with a stick, and then they come off and package the beans in paper bags and put them in supermarket shelves and sell. Yes. So this thing of coming to tell us that you are creating an industrial park so that you can turn Kenya into an industrialized nation is a lot of nonsense. Those are infrastructure projects that will end up being ghost projects that are not occupied, because you're not empowering the young people. Industries grow from home and they begin from there. So it's a question of trying to help young people with what they need to be able to start that kind of thing. Yes. And what you don't need is those things that they are building there. Now, having said that, on this other issue of the president saying he's going to deliver, he won't. You know, this person, Mungai here, is telling us he has a lot of faith in government. Someone comes and tells you, we will revive the economy in 3 months. You believe them. It's a year, nothing has happened. This government comes and looks at you in the face and tells you we have stabilized the economy. And then you laugh because, I mean, then stability must have acquired a new meaning in the dictionary that we do not know. Someone tells you there will be gas for 300 shillings. Many months on, it's not gotten to 300 shillings. You keep saying we still have faith in that government. They promise you electric motorbikes, which we do not have until now. Go and ask how many border people have gotten those electric motorbikes. And until now, they don't have them. You still believe in that government. They come and tell you that the problem that we had in this country is because the Uhuru Kenyatas of this world were not paying taxes. The Uhuru Kenyatas of this world, that story could not be sustained for so long. Now they start telling you that they are using 84% of the money we collect to pay debts, and you believe them. To start with, 15% of what we collect goes to counties in devolution, in what is given as disbursements for devolution. So, and then another 2% of what is collected goes to CDF. So that's already 17%. Yeah? So from 100, if you take away 17%, what are you left with? You're left with about 83%. Mm-hmm. But he's lying to us on national TV that 84% of what we're collecting is going to paying debts. And we already can see, just from CDF alone, 2%. Another 15% has gone to devolution in the county governments, yeah, if they have actually received it. Now we are being told that 84% is going to pay debt. So you're saying the national government has been left with what? Less than 1% of what has been left? It is not true. The amount of money that this government is using to pay debt is not what is affecting this nation. What is affecting this nation is that even the little we have is being used by Moses Kuria to import some cooking oil that we do not need. Who said Kenya had a shortage of cooking oil? Who said Kenya had a problem with cooking oil? We are, in fact, if anything, we only had a problem with maize, which I still don't believe, because there were farmers in Wasingishu who had maize stuck in their silos. Yes. There was a lot of rice in Moya. Even now, there's a lot of rice in Moya, and we are still importing rice. We don't have a sugar problem in this country. I've always said it. If you allow the sugarcane farmer to add value to the sugar that they make, we don't have a sugarcane problem in this country. We don't have a sugar problem. We just have people who want to import sugar into this nation. So basically, this government should stop becoming a government of lamentations. I think that's their favorite book in the Bible. They just read about lamentations and they lament about everything. It should become a government of kings that tells us what is going to happen, yes, that leads us in wisdom and directs us in the places where we should go. And by the way, yes, there is nothing wrong with resigning. If you think that you cannot run this nation, if you think that it is impossible, no, I'm just saying, instead of coming to tell Kenyans to dig wells, yes, right now I'm speaking to my hardware friends because we want to start selling fokojembes and dururus and all those, because, I mean, there will be a huge business for people who are going to dig oil wells. So I think that's the next business enterprise, that we all start selling materials that can be used to dig wells. It's going to be the next big business because people are going to dig wells. Yeah.
So, Mr. Mukai, just as Prof gets ready, because I want to go to him right now. I mean, the bigger question that you have to respond to is that even when you have faith in this government delivering and President Dr. William Ruto then delivering on his agenda, the question that you have to answer is why then can't he move in quickly to take out the people that you're questioning here right now on this particular set? I'll be coming back to you on that. Prof, the question is that indeed they want to deliver. Fine. And they are telling you exactly what it is they're doing. Somebody asked me this question. Are there areas in this country that we should not touch? And they said, maybe now we should start a conversation that if we're going to talk about reducing the cost of living, reducing the cost of production, reducing the cost of manufacturing in this country, you have to say that I'm not going to touch the cost of fuel. I am going to balance it on other areas in the economy, but because I know the economy runs on the cost of fuel, I'm not going to touch it. Because then everything that I say about the cost of living, manufacturing, production is negated immediately once I double VAT on petrol, and then I say, oh, wait a minute, there's another 2% again that's coming in once you guys start the new year in 2024. So making 18% from 8% 1 year ago.
Yeah. You know, Simba, that is true that we have to look at what is it that will attract people to invest in the country, what is it that will boost manufacturing and production.
Yes.
And because I'm an economist, I don't like throwing words in the air. What was the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza? Yeah, they said they were going to have a robust manufacturing. And for me as an economist, I disagreed with it because it was baseless. Yes. And Simba, numbers are stubborn. The percentage of our economy, the GDP of Kenya, 62% of the GDP comes from the service sector. Yes. Where you are and I am. I'm a consultant. I offer services. You are media. You offer services. Financial services, insurance services, it's already 60%. Yes. And there is a way economy is looked at. The first form of economy is hunting and gathering, where we look for guavas, oranges, and eat just widely on the field. Yes. Like our great-grandparents never really got bothered about agriculture. After that, then we went for agrarian, where now you have to plant something, harvest, whether it's animals or crops, and then you can eat. The third economy is industrialization. When I talk about the issue of manufacturing, that's where we are not yet. After industrialization, we go to what's called de-industrialization. De-industrialization is whereby the service sector contributes a big chunk to the economy. Now, Kenya is doing 62% already in the service sector of the GDP. if you go to a country like Switzerland, is a financial center of the world, isn't it? Switzerland does more of services than manufacturing. And for us here, we are stuck that we need to manufacture. Remember, Britain industrialized more than 2,000 years ago. So we want to achieve now what Britain achieved 2,000 years ago. We can't catch up. We just can't. But M-Pesa is here in Kenya. It's not in Britain. There are some things that we can leapfrog the world. That's why the book I've written is called The Solomonic Economic Model, The Great Leap. We can leapfrog. Without having telephone lines connected throughout the country, we have mobile phone, isn't it? Yeah. Without having bank branches everywhere, you have a phone in your phone. Can't we have real economists who know how to take Kenya forward rather than taking us backwards? Because we cannot now go back and say we want to have a bigger chunk of the economy coming from manufacturing. Because if you do that, we are going where Britain was. Now, America came with during Obama came with called tech manufacturing, whereby you use data, big data, you use technology to find a way which you can manufacture robots. Kenya should not focusing on manufacturing things that are already manufactured better elsewhere. If Kenya can come with a way young people can be employed with computer to manufacture robots that can be used to offer services to Somalia, to Sudan, we will actually be advancing than thinking about now manufacturing toilet paper. Already, people who are rich in this country manufacture very basic things. I can tell people, when you talk about trying to manufacture things which are like now, talk about the nuclear energy, we are going very far. The richest person in Kenya is a business person in Manu Chandaria, isn't it? What does he manufacture? Toilet paper. Toilet paper. The richest people in this country are, for example, Shah family of Bidco. They manufacture soap, like kawaida soap, panga. Tell me any home that does not have panga. Even as a young boy, nilishawa na panga, sivyo. Na ulioga na panga, sivyo. Yeah. So why are we talking about advanced things? Can we have a technology that can be able to automate manufacturing of panga rather than going backwards? So for me, I tell you, we are going to educate Kenyans on many economic things that 2027, if you don't know economics, you cannot win an election. I'm looking forward when a serious economist... We are there because Kenyans know. So I told you about border. Let me tell you what Simba.
What proves?
The fact that Kenyans are poor, it doesn't mean they are stupid. I told you about the border has told us that, tell us the flat price of fuel and don't increase anymore. Yes. If you know they're going to move until 500, just put 500. It knows that a border person knows that once you have hit a certain fuel price and it's stable, he can plan with his family. That border is an economist.
What decision is the border guy going to make at the ballot come 2027 though?
No, he has now known that economics matters. Remember, there's something William RUTO did which was great, isn't it?
Yes.
William RUTO brought economic discussion in the 2022 elections more than any other person in the history of Kenya. Even Kibaki did not explain to us the economics before we elected him. Uhuru did not have to explain economics, he just had to talk about the Hague. But RUTO explained economics. But Kenyans were still not understanding what he was saying. Let me tell you what, my brother. I don't know where you sit, my brothers. Walk out here. I meet Mama Mboga. I meet my numbers. They understand economics. Do you know that nowadays, before when fuel prices will go up, the matatu will say, we are doubling the prices. Now they say, we are increasing fares by 21%. For the first time in the history of this country, a manamba and a driver knows the correlation between increase in fuel prices and percentage increase in fare. Did you hear this when you were growing up? You didn't. I'm telling you, Kenyans are clever. I tell you. And they know what they want. In fact, our motto, as we do Kenyan, talk about hekima mashinani, local wisdom, rasilimali mashinani. In your own area, what are the resources? For example, talk about you, isn't it? Then matunda mashinani, the products of what you produce. Kenyans are very advanced. In fact, the reason why Kenyans are educating William RUTO on TV, they see that he's wrong. Any young person you ask knows. You don't assume that thing. I'm telling you, forget about it. My grandmother knows about Sava. My grandmother told me about when will the server open.
Prof,
My grandmother.
Yes. Prof, do you know what conversation is going on now in the political backrooms?
Yeah.
Is that we gotta go with Raila Amolo Odinga from the Azimio coalition again in 2027, because they're looking around and saying, well, nobody's gonna challenge Dr. William Ruto other than Raila Amolo Odinga. Are we not still stuck on the old politics of
Simba?
Yes.
Whether Raila Odinga wants to go for presidency, he has a constitutional right. As far as I'm concerned, in ODM, after the NDC, he's still the presidential candidate, so he has all the right to do whatever he wants.
Yes.
The only issue is, what agreement did they have with Martha Karua and Kalonzo Musyoka and all these guys Azimio before this election? Did they agree if he wins the election, he goes for second term? Did he agree if he does not win, somebody else take over? Those will be all the agreements. Those MOU will come in on papers. We will wait and read. The other thing I have to say that Raila Odinga has the constitutional right to run. Thirdly, anyone talking about age is not an issue. In fact, for me, I don't mind whether he runs for the election or not. If I want to be in the ballot as well, I don't care who is running. Why do you care about who is running? You come and sell your policy. Anybody trying to block another person from running is just not good enough.
Yes.
If you are good enough, whether he runs or not, the discussion whether Raila should run or not, this should not be an issue. You should be asking yourself, Simba, whom does Kenya need to liberate them? Whether Raila is running or not, that for me is not an issue. In fact, he should run if he wants to.
Yes.
In fact, he should try all his chances until it is practically and mathematically impossible. But the question is, does Raila Odinga offer the solution that Kenyans are looking for? What was Raila Odinga's economic model when William Ruto talked about bottoms up? Do you think Kenyans still resonate with his policies? Kenyans love him, but there's people you love but don't like. For example, my wife told me, I like guys with Rastafarians, but I can't date them. See, that's a different story. You can be liked, but actually you cannot be dated. So be careful. Women tell you, oh, you look smart. But ask them, can you give me a date? The answer will be very different.
Guys laughing.
So the question I'm trying to say here is, let us be very honest. I want Kenyans who are of goodwill to try. I'm actually asking young people, vie for MCA. Don't wait for your senator to retire. Vie against them. Because we want the youth to be leaders today. I want women not to wait and say, you know, for me, this guy, he's a very prominent person. I want the women, young people who believe can turn the economy, come to sell your manifesto, because in selling your manifesto, you will educate people, even if you don't win an election. But as you educate people, you'll understand even your policies much better. If you try to explain them, people try to oppose them. Then you become sharper, then you can win. For me, let anybody want to run. Let IBC have as many booklets for the presidential election, MP, MCA as possible. And I can tell you, mark my words, Simba, the people whom we are thinking are going to win the presidency want to win. There's something I know. They are not going to win. In fact, William Ruto might not see State House in 2027. Raila Odinga might not see it as well, isn't it? There might be somebody else who will win the election. I can tell you. Tides are turning, Kenyans are tired. Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, these guys were in government in 1992. You understand me? How can we have the same characters playing this movie again in 2027? If we are still looking at them only, when will Kenyans emerge? We need a serious alternative face, a new face in this race. Whether it is you, whether it's Eric Mungai, whether it's my brother here, let us just wait and see that we need a new face who will tell us something different. And we do not want a politician to be a president. We want someone who comes from a business run, because they are clueless. Ruto is a good politician, poor economist. Kibaki was a politician, but more economist than a politician. That's why he could not even win the second term after performing very well. We want somebody like that, who can run the economy, not someone who will do politics. Ruto is doing good politics, poor economics. And we want economics because we don't eat politics. Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya, Professor alisema.
Mr. Mungai, you know, you're getting put on the spot by Fanya Mambo. Isn't that you're running on hope that the only thing that you're selling is hope to your audience this morning? that 1 year down the line, you can't count anything that this government has delivered. They're still telling you we are on the process of delivering some of those promises we made. And I ask you this question, if indeed the president is concerned about the utterances that are coming from some of these leaders that have been appointed to carry the economic agenda of the country, why can't he fire them? The same sense that you're having this morning. Maybe Fanya Mambo couldn't ask you that question. You would have an immediate response. It's like you received, he's already fired them. So give these new guys more time to deliver. Why isn't the president cracking the whip on these leaders?
When it has been time for president to crack the whip, he has cracked the whip. He has just the other day fired a PS for corruption related cases. What I want to say, Simba, is this. I am not a man who acts like a warthog, that at the first sign of trouble, my first inclination is to run into a hole. I am a man who believes that irrespective of the challenges that you inherit,
yes,
you have a responsibility to make things right, not just for yourself, but for the sake of future generations. And the background to that is this,
yes,
that the Kenya Kwanza government inherited an economy that was in shambles. And the first thing you do, Simba, when you get into a hole is to stop digging. Now, whenever you're building a house, you have Mambo, Fanya Mambo has accused us of infrastructure and wanting to be corrupt. When you build a house, there is a high likelihood that the taller the building, the lower you're going to sink in terms of the foundation. And I put it to you that the reason why 1 year down the line we are not seeing the fruits of our labor yet,
yes,
is because we must prepare a foundation that is fit for us to be able to build upon. Now, Prof will tell you in economics, there is no miracle you're going to perform today and tomorrow people are very happy and all of a sudden their incomes are rising. If we mismanaged our economy, there are consequences.
yes,
And governments are a going concern. It means that if you inherit good things, you build upon them to make them better. If you inherit bad governance and you inherit bad policies, you have a responsibility to correct and follow the right path. And what I'm saying, Simba, is it's been 1 year. And I know for sure, and why I love this government is that when we have, it's always easier to criticize than to be the person that is doing. There is a famous American president who said, it is the man in the ring who understands how the bout is coming along. It is not the fans, it is not the spectators. The spectators can cheer you, and when you lose one goal, they are very disappointed. They no longer want the coach. We are support Manchester, this has happened, we are baying for blood all of a sudden. It is common human behavior. But as I told you, Simba, the fact that things are tough now does not mean that we throw in the towel. The fact that we are able to sit here and call out someone like David D is a good sign that we are cognizant of the economic policies that we need in this country. And therefore, you've asked me a question, why then can't the president, fire so-and-so? I'll tell you for a fact, it's bad politics to fire your administration first year. It's bad politics. Because then it speaks of several consequences,
yes,
and it paints a picture that is not very nice.
yes.
But what I would say is this. Yes, there are cabinet secretaries who are lagging behind, and who are not performing up to expectation. But the thing is, as a government, there is need for us to explain more to Kenyans,
yes,
on what we are doing on the economic front, so that it is not only bad publicity like David D is doing that only finds itself in the limelight. There are a lot of good things that are happening. The onus is on government to communicate the good things that they are doing. And I'll tell you, Simba, for a fact, you know, a lie travels twice around the world before even the truth sets on to tie its own shoelaces. And the lies that are being propagated by people like Fanyamambo, sometimes they appear very genuine. They appear like they are coming from a genuine place and from a place of goodwill. But you know, these are the same lies we've lived with for many years.
Yes, it's not lying, it's questioning.
No, it's lies.
Yeah,
it's lies. When you
yeah.
sit on a panel like this,
yes,
and tell the Kenyan people that the government has not done anything to improve the economy, I mean, that's a lie. That's a white lie. The thing is, there are policies the government has set in place.
Yes.
Let us not become people. No, let us not become people who lie for the sake.
White lie is a good lie.
Sorry?
White lie is a good lie.
Then I don't mean the white one, the black one.
Yes,
we can.
I'm gonna cross over to you. By the way, I'm gonna give you the 10 minutes, isn't it? I'm gonna cross to you. So when we say that there's some economic policies that the government has put in place, and this is the same policies that Kenyans are questioning. They're questioning taxation policies. That
they're not working.
Everybody's crying, they're not working. And when you think that that's enough, the government comes back again and tells you, oh, now we're going to add more tax for you in January 2027. There's another appropriation bill that's going to come to add VAT to 18% from 16%. All those mama boggers who are selling their fish, who are peddling their wares in the streets are going to get hit by more taxes as well. Is that not what we are saying? That we're not feeling it?
You know, Simba,
yes,
we must tell Kenyans the truth. And we must be empathetic when we tell them the truth. The truth is, we are not in a very good situation economically as a country. And secondly, the truth also is,
yes,
we need to rely more on our own taxes to be able to get out of the hole that we are in right now, and the hole that the Kenya Kwanza government found when they got into power. Now, are things going to get better in the short term? I highly doubt. And this is just me telling you, you know, there is what you want me to say to make Kenyans feel better, and I understand. But the truth is, yes, things are tough now.
Yes.
And in the short term, my estimation is that things are going to get tougher as we move along. For instance, we removed the subsidy program on fuel, okay? Now, if you look at that subsidy program, we were actually borrowing from oil marketers with a promise to pay them in future. Okay? Now, that is bad economics. Because when you subsidize, for how long can you subsidize a product like fuel, and yet we are importers of fuel? Tomorrow, if prices continue to go up in the outside countries, that in the OPEC regions, there's nothing we can do as a country. We have to absorb what it is. We have to import inflation from other countries. And therefore, it is to tell Kenyans that the plan might be taking time that the Kenyan government, the Kenya Kwanza government promised.
Yes.
But sometimes you have to tighten your belt. You have to tighten your belt, and things will actually get better before they become worse.
But you're saying it. Musalia Mudavadi is not saying it. David Ndii is not saying it. Moses Kuria is not saying it. All the CSs in President Ruto's government are not saying it. They're saying the plan is on. Musalia Mudavadi stood up and said, 1 year down the line, we have fulfilled and we will continue to fulfill. Moses Kuria is saying, look here, things are going to get worse. He's told Kenyans, get ready for 3 months of El Nino. And fuel will be around 280 shillings come February next year. So be ready. And he comes back and says, I'm not that CS who's going to stand here and tell you, oh, things are better, we're trying to work. No, I'm going to tell you the truth. So that's you saying it, and that's what
that's
Kenyans
exactly what I've said.
Isn't it?
I've just said it in a more polite language.
That's it. That
things will get a bit tough.
Let me put this question to you as you get then the chance to respond to what Mr. Mungai said. If indeed majority of Kenyans are saying, well, we don't feel it. If indeed Mr. Mungai right here is saying, well, I want to believe that it's not only David Ndii who's giving us economic policies that are getting implemented by the president in this country and in all these ministries, why can't the president then say, well, it's 1 year, guys, it's not working. There's a lot of hitting the country, even from his backyard. You saw what happened to Alfred Keter when he took over the mic in front of the lieutenants of President William Ruto, and he got overwhelming support when he said, well, we don't feel it and stop threatening us. We are talking to you, so talk to us. Why can't the president come in and say, maybe now, let's relook at this plan 1 year down the line? It's not essentially working.
I want you to look at the Kenya Kwanza administration in terms of income and expenditure.
Yes.
If you read the business daily on 25th of March this year, they highlighted that at that point in time, Kenya Kwanza government had borrowed 1.2 trillion within 9 months. Basically, the Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, within a similar period, had borrowed 423 billion. Now, the KRA was also banging their chests around June, July, and said that their collections have never been this high. They had collected 1.2, 1.3 trillion. They were doing really well, and they made it clear.
Yes.
From an income perspective, this government has borrowed 1.2 trillion, and KRA has banged their chest and said, you have never collected more money like we have collected now. So they have borrowed more than previous governments. They have collected more than previous governments. Coming from whose mouths? Themselves. But now let us go to expenditure. That government that borrowed less, that they say was over borrowing and has landed us in debt,
yes,
that government had money to give subsidies for fuel. Theirs, which has collected more and borrowed more, has got no money to give for subsidies. That's number one. Number two, that government that they called bad had got money to give to high schools in terms of capitation for schools. You saw the other day principals in Mombasa complaining that their schools have not received money and they are not receiving money. And by the way, for your information, high school education has become very expensive for parents in this country. They can tell you the pain they are going through. Again, a government that has borrowed more, collected more, being unable to give subsidies, being unable to give capitation to schools. I don't know whether you get me. Now, if the previous government had landed us in a financial hole, yes, let me tell you, the IMF and the World Bank that he keeps saying bad things about are like your ordinary banks. They don't give you money if your books look bad. Let me tell you today, your bank is the kind of person who gives you an umbrella when the sun is out. When it starts raining, your bank will come for the umbrella. IMF and World Bank does not give money to Somalia. IMF and World Bank does not give money to to Zimbabwe. Why don't they give money to those countries? And the Togos of this world, and the Chad. They don't give you money if you don't have the ability to pay. They don't give you money if your economy is not good. They don't give you money if they think that you are in financial doldrums. So what we are trying to say is that for Kenya to get another 1.2 trillion shillings, it means that our economy was in a position to pay back for that money. Number three, the government that collected more money and borrowed more money has got no money to give to universities. Right now, I'm in 3 WhatsApp groups for the first time in a very long time of people trying to raise funds to take their children to university. That never used to happen in the past. It's happening now. The Kenya Kwanza administration is one administration that has collected a lot more and borrowed a lot more and increased taxation in a way that has never happened, but at the same time continued to spend less than the previous administration. Can you imagine you in your house, your incomes have increased. Your wife will even wonder, kama ni loan, you've borrowed more loans in your house than you have ever borrowed in the past, okay? Kama ni income, mshahara yako kazini iliongezewa. But now you've become the father who is not able to pay school fees, who is not able to pay school fees for your child in the university. You've become the father who is not able to meet any other bill in that house. And all the time you keep saying, nalipa madeni ya zamani. But you're being told, but for the first time you have a lot more money at your disposal than you ever had. And for the first time as the head of this house, you have a lot less expenditures than you ever had in life because you refuse to pay all the other things that were being paid, including subsidies. This is the kind of image that Kenyans needs to see. that there is a father who is now earning more, and there's a father who has been able to borrow more, but that for the first time in life, he's not paying school fees for the university child, he's not paying school fees for the high school child, he's not giving the wife fuel allowance the way he used to give the wife fuel allowance, so that the wife pesa yake inabaki ya makeup na mafuta ya kujipaka. This husband now has become a very different kind of husband, and that's what Kenya Kwanza is doing with our money.
And they have no mpango wa kando like
and then you see now the same husband, I thank the professor for telling me that, and the same husband, he doesn't have a mpango wa kando. He's not been seen to have another girlfriend where he's taking the money to. So they need to tell us what is happening in this house. And once we understand that, we are good to go. But we can tell you this Kenya Kwanza administration needs to tell us, why are you earning more, borrowing more, spending less, and all the time you are saying you are paying debts.
Yes. Fanya Mambo, I want you to take 2 minutes. Please help us decipher. If that's not the language that we want to hear from Moses Kuria, from David Ndii, and a couple of leaders within the Kenya Kwanza government, why hasn't the president essentially cracked the whip? Guess who spoke about it? Rigathi Gachagua is now the one who's saying, hey guys, you can't speak like that.
Okay.
In fact, he said, ship in or ship out. If you can't then speak in a way that Kenyans are going to resonate with what we're trying to achieve as a government, why hasn't the president cracked the whip? You would like to think it will come in and speak. 2 minutes.
Very quickly, you see, they say nobody hates a proud man more than another proud man. The trophy for speaking irresponsibly belonged to the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya.
Yes.
And now Moses Kuria is about to take that away from him. And David Ndii are also in the race of taking that away from him. He will not let them. He has to stop them. He has a monopoly of speaking divisive things. So why are they trying to take his trophy? Even me, if I was him, I would stop them from taking my trophy. He has had that monopoly for a very long time. He's the only man who can come and say very acerbic things and divisive things. And then he was also followed closely by Kimani wa Ichung'wah.
Yes.
But now Moses Kuria has gotten to a point where he wants to take his trophy. This is something he holds very dear. He'll not allow that to happen.
Yes.
So that will not be allowed to happen. Moses Kuria has to stay in his place. He needs to know that the #1 person to speak such divisive things is the deputy president, followed by the leader of majority in the National Assembly. And you see even him, he measures so that akiona ni kama anaenda kufikia kiwango ya DP anapunguza kidogo. Then Moses Kuria follows, then David Ndii. The problem is having these two are trying to overtake the #1, so they had to be stopped and reduced because they were coming at a very high speed. I think because immediately he told them that he will come back again. You will see him on Sunday in a church saying things about how the former prime minister is bad and how those people who did not vote for this government should not get anything in this government and so on and so forth. I do not think their words as bad as the ones that the DP has used himself in trying to profile Kenyans and saying that some of them who did not vote for this administration should get nothing from it. This nation belongs to all of us. If there is anybody who should not get anything from it, it is himself, not any other person, because every Kenyan is equal in the eyes of the law. And I keep saying,
yes,
I hold the highest office in this country, and every Kenyan should know that. There is no higher office than the office of a citizen.
Yes.
It is the highest office you can ever hold, because as a citizen you can comment on anything, including global warming and the temperature of the sun.
Pretty much.
Just let me a minute.
Prof,
for me,
even as you reiterated that, I want you to listen to these particular questions that you can also get to respond to it. I've got this question from Margaret Ngogi. Thank you very much for watching us all the way from Eldoret. Hi, is Eldoret. I'm told there's a lot of rainfall there. Good conversation. Could you ask Prof what is going to have to take for majority of Kenyans to vote right, at least for once? Some question that I put to you.
Margaret.
Yes, sir.
Margaret, let me tell you what. I'm looking at the front page of Business Daily.
Yes, sir.
And for the first time, kerosene is more expensive than diesel. You know, for me, who went to school and used to do my assignment using kerosene,
yes,
I'm asking myself, how many kids now, because there's a time my mom would send me to go and look for kerosene. We would even borrow from the neighbor.
Yes.
And sometimes we won't get it. And you have homework from the teacher, then we might actually try to see if the moon can give you some light. Yes. That's how I went to school in Uganda. So Margaret, you're asking me, this is the time. The signs are on the wall that your community, there is no community bank account. When William Ruto has appointed Moses Kuria because they are followers of Moses Kuria from his community, therefore he can win presidency, he will be told otherwise that there is no community bank account. When someone is stealing money from the country, when someone is mishandling the economy, the money they are taking, they don't tell me when William Ruto open an account for Kalenjin so that I'm president, you can withdraw money with this ATM. So there's no community bank account. You have to know that there's no fuel station belonging to Kenya Kwanza, to Azimio, to Ajaluo, to Akikuyu, to Kalenjins. Your vote is your bank account. You put your money, your vote in the wrong box. You are depositing money in the wrong bank account. Yes. When Kenya discover that where you put your ballot, your ballot, where you put it, is where you're putting your future. Someone can give you, Margaret, 100 shillings today, 1,000 shillings tomorrow, 20,000 shillings, but after that, you'll give me back in terms of the school fees you're going to pay, in terms of all these things. I'm telling you, if that question for Margaret is true, it is 2027. It is going to bite hard. These guys are completely clueless. When you are hearing that the fuel prices are increasing throughout the world, you can see there that the government is taking how much? The government is taking around 200 shillings. Actually the government is taking around 120 shillings from you so that they can be able to pay whatever they want. Why are they paying this? They are traveling too much. They are spending too much. The expenditure has gone up for the office of the president, the office of the deputy president.
They're all putting cabros in State House.
Cabros are there. These guys do not care about you.
Yes.
Because let me tell you what, Kenyans have discovered that William Ruto is not a hustler. They are hustlers themselves. And they have made their work terrible. So when you make kerosene, cross 200 shillings mark, it tells you Kenyans are going to vote differently. So Kenyans vote according to paraffin, vote according to the price of unga, vote according to the price of sugar. Look for somebody who will explain to you, not that I have a plan. Ruto told you I have a plan. But having a plan is one thing, implementing is another. So I want you to elect somebody who do not just have a plan, but a strategy. Because a plan is one thing, a strategy is another. Why do you see Tanzania not up and in arms about the case of living, yet they're having the same global prices? Uganda. Why are you not seeing this happen in Europe? Because they are subsidized. Those places are subsidized. Then, last but not least, let me tell you what, Simba, what I want is that this government should give us hope. And hope is a very common ingredient. Can you imagine when you wake up every day and you do not know what to expect in terms of what the government will do? And every time what they are doing is creating more pain and more pain. Can we wake up one day to good news? Since the election took place, and now I want to ask Eric here who supports the Kenya Kwanza government. Let me ask you, is there a day you woke up and you got news? I'm sure the only day those who voted William Ruto woke up and got news was when he was elected. When you woke up and found breaking news, William Ruto declared president. Breaking news, Supreme Court uphold his election. That was the last thing they celebrated. Can you go and elect the same government if you only celebrated their win? So according to me, Kenyans are going to vote very differently for those who will vote.
Pretty much.
But I want to tell Kenyans who won't vote, if you don't like the people you've been voting for, wake up and vote for a different person. But not voting is actually voting.
Bonnie Odhiambo has a question for you. Firing the likes of Moses Kuria and David Ndii will be bad PR for the president. A lot of people will start doubting his agenda. That's why they're still in office, but they're the wrong people. Do you agree? 2 minutes as we close out.
Thank you. As I said, firing them is bad politics.
Yes.
Good governance, bad politics. But I believe time is coming for those CSAs who are not delivering to face the axe. It has happened before. Already there is a PS who's been sacked. But in my way of conclusion on the issue of the ones who voted for Kenya Kwanza government, like myself, have never woken up to any good news. I want to remind them that the good news that we wake up to is not newspaper headlines, because those ones are not full of good news. I have woken up to good news that teachers have been employed in this country that we've not employed for a long time. I know several relatives who are a beneficiary of the same during this particular regime. I have woken up to good news of cooking oil prices going down. I have severally woken up to very good news about this government and what it is doing.
Yes.
And therefore, I want to disabuse again the notion that some of us who support government are afraid of actually supporting it. As I said earlier, we are not those people who behave like the hare or a warthog. At the first sign of trouble, we get our tails into a hole. We admit that sometimes times are tough, but times are tough because we need to brace ourselves for when times will be good. Do I say my closing remarks or you?
15 seconds.
Thank you very much. Mine is to encourage Kenyans. Let's have hope.
Yes.
The plan is working. It might look painful now, but the plan is working. Let them not listen to detractors, to naysayers, to people whose only value in life is to see the negative. They never see anything positive. Let us be positive and let us allow the plan to work.
Guess what? We've looked at it. Thank you very much, Fanyamambo. Prof, always a pleasure to have you around. Mr. Mungai, always a pleasure to have you around. Take them back to the time that they joined us right here on Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. We take a tiny breather. Once we come back, let's then talk about what youth can get into. Let's look at e-farming shortly, right here on Lookuptv. Good morning.